Hello, my little puffins. Welcome to another episode of Eat Puff Love. We are your hosts, Growler.
And your boy Vibes.
How you feeling today, Vibes?
I'm feeling good.
Yes.
I'm feeling really good, actually.
Oh, why are you feeling good today?
Well, I'm sated. I just had a breakfast sandwich because you know what?
I'm
on vacation.
Vacation. Talk about this breakfast sandwich. This is Eat Puff Love.
Oh, it is. It is true. So, I took a little bacon and put it in the skillet. Mm-hmm. And then I fried a little egg in that grease, but in that little cute little mold you have that keeps the egg shape.
Okay.
And then
fancy.
after that,
Come on, McDonald's.
put it on a little bun.
Yeah.
Yeah, a little hamburger bun that I toasted. Ooh. And then we spread some veganese. Imagine that. That was the only vegan thing on the sandwich, but we used veganese.
Did you use veganese?
Because I'm at your house, and that's why I'm using it. Because there's no real mayo to be found.
Well, there's no real mayo here. But you know what? It's not about who is real and what is not. Let me finish telling
the people about the sandwich.
Yeah, tell us about the sandwich. Go ahead.
Okay. And then I layered 2 pieces of Gouda. And you don't put the strips of bacon on. You have to tear them apart so you get bites on each part of the sandwich. And I added lettuce and tomato, a little salt and pepper, and there you go, friends.
Yes.
Breakfast sandwich.
I don't know if this is a breakfast sandwich or if this is like a breakfast meal, because like when I think of a breakfast sandwich, all I think about is like a sausage, egg, and cheese. You talked about lettuce, tomato, mayo, like
all food groups.
All the food groups, yes.
Yeah, that's what should happen to more breakfast sandwiches. It should have all the food groups.
Well, that sounds like the cost of breakfast sandwiches would start to soar all across the country, and we don't need people skipping breakfast around.
Already happening, friends. Already happening.
Well, I am feeling good as well on today. It is a nice summer day in DC
in June.
I am enjoying also my digesting breakfast sandwich, courtesy to Chef Vibes, who made it happen. Y'all, this breakfast sandwich was good. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. It was some good stuff. And at the end, it's like the perfect way to wrap up a June, having breakfast sandwiches and vacationing, and also getting to reflect on Pride. This has been a Pride month.
Yeah, June is Pride month, along with a lot of other things, but we're going to be focusing on Pride.
Yeah. So tell me, do you remember your first time going to a Pride event?
I'm trying to think. My first Pride event. Well, I imagine it was probably in Washington, D.C. Okay. I don't know if I came before I moved here to the city or afterwards, but I always remember Pride being, one, split, because D.C. has its own D.C. Black Pride, and then there is Pride, and D.C. Black Pride happens in May, around the Memorial Day weekend.
Okay.
And so I just recall that just being a great thing, like people from all over, up and down the East Coast really, and maybe even as far away as Chicago would, come to DC, and there would be parties all over the place. And I'm talking about Black Pride. And they would have
Chocolate City.
Yeah, waning, but the memories are still here.
The memories
so
are
the people.
Yes.
We just need to make ourselves known, and but anyway, I'm digressing.
Don't mute DC.
Yeah, Pride in D.C. It was just a great time. It was camaraderie. It was a lot of fun, a lot of, I'm sure, a lot of sex going on, a lot of music. But one thing that the organizations always did outside the circuit parties was they always had like some informational fair, an event, like about, it's just centering Black queer voices. And I remember that happening. And then I moved to D.C. in 1996.
Wow.
So, yeah. It was a thing. I mean, there was always anxiety around Pride too. You got your best outfit. You got to have money in your pocket because you're going to be going to this place and that place. You're going to be going out and eating with friends, and so you could be struggling. But it was always a celebration, and then at the end there was always like a barbecue type event in the park over at Fort
Yes.
DuPont with music and boys with the T-shirts off. And
Yes, come on, Cookout.
yeah, so it was a big thing. And it happened again this year. We got out to a little of the events, right?
Yeah, we got
so-
out to. This was actually my first DC Black Pride, and I think, I mean, it was that combined. I mean, moving to the city and then the pandemic happening shortly after that, and so yeah, it was a great time, and the parties were fun. Seeing all the people was fun, and getting to dance. That was really where my heart was. We got to dance
All night.
all night, and like if you are not dancing to the point where you're sweating and you're drenched, then you ain't doing it right.
Right.
So you gotta move your feet, and if you can't move your feet, then move your body in your seat. Do what you gotta do, because that's what Pride was for me this year.
Yeah.
But I think my first Pride was actually, so when I lived in St. Louis, there was actually a park across the street from my house.
The Lou.
Yes, in the Lou, and in Tower Grove Park is where was where Pride used to happen. And so I was still trying to figure out myself, and I knew.
So what Pride was it? Was this like a all-inclusive Pride event?
Yeah,
or?
this is more like an all-inclusive Pride event. They also used to have the pagan festival across the street, and at the time, my Christian family was like, "Oh no, we're not going to no pagan festival." But we saw Pride, and the music was cool, and the people had on fun outfits, and I lived in a neighborhood where there were a lot of LGBT people who were out and were visible in the community, and so
So that explains it all then.
oh my gosh,
Early exposure.
early exposure,
Which
and
is a good thing.
It's a good thing. I even remember there was a little coffee shop up the street, and it was always known that was the gay coffee shop. And in high school, I never went to it because I was like, I don't want to go to the gay coffee shop. And now you can't keep me out of the gay coffee shops.
Well, if there are any.
If there are any anymore.
But just clarifier for people, for our listeners, Little Puffins, like you all know, we live in a world where, white folks do their own things,
Yeah.
even though now they're trying to be more inclusive, but, not so much. And so that means that, black folks and other people of color have to create their own events where they are proud and out and celebrating who they are.
And being celebrated. Yeah.
And taking the initiative to do that. And so, yeah, there are, even in this day and age, separate Pride events. Because, like I said before, in D.C., the all-inclusive Pride happened after D.C. Black Pride.
Right.
And though the city acknowledged D.C. Black Pride, of course, businesses and venues were really, really celebrating the inclusive Pride. So, yeah, that's a thing, but whatever.
Yeah, it's whatever. I mean, but I think having those spaces for people to come together and be celebrated is so important. And I'm just grateful. I'm grateful. And now my Pride experience has an expectation to it.
Really?
Oh yes.
How so?
Well, first of all, I got to make sure that I have a cute shirt on because because honey, the sidewalk becomes the runway. You have to look good.
At some events.
At some events.
Some events you don't need anything on. Or you're like sitting at the round table having a discussion about education.
This is a thing, yes.
How we show up as queer educators of color.
Yeah, we totally did do that.
And one takeaway. So we went on, just for who are listening, we went to this roundtable because at the DC Black Pride event, there were roundtable discussions about a plethora of things, and we decided to go to one around educators, and the conversation went everywhere. But one of my takeaways from that brought me back into my own classroom. For all those who don't know, I'm a teacher on my day job, and helped me really like this year be what's the word I'm looking for? Not direct, but like intentional about expressing what Pride Month meant to my students. And so, every morning we spotlighted a queer hero and gave information and had discussion and read great books about gender identity and what it means to be queer.
So you said queer heroes. Were these people who were championing LGBT issues specifically, or were these?
Yeah.
Oh, that's cool.
So like we spotlighted Marsha P. Johnson, and we spotlighted some names are. I'm blanking on some names. It's probably that Sunshine.
Well, maybe we should.
But
sounds like you should have given 2 months now.
But yeah, like all types of people, all shades and hues, and the kids really had some really great questions. They had some curiosities, and it was good because I didn't get any pushback from anybody, not even any parent.
That's awesome.
And so I feel like that's something I'm going to continue to do. Particularly in June, but throughout. I mean, I teach math, and I always throw in non-gender pronouns and explain families through word problems and stuff. But that was something that was a takeaway for Pride, and I feel like I'm rambling now. So
no, it's good, and I think that as an educator, who better to have those conversations with our young people than somebody who is open to their questions and willing to listen and willing to push new questions and expand their critical thinking and their thoughts about the world. And so I think that's pretty cool. Yeah,
I'm over here trying to listen, but my tongue just went numb again because I licked my lips after drinking that spicy lemonade you made. And now my tongue is numb again.
Well, you know what?
Who puts jalapenos in lemonade, everybody?
You know what?
Growler does.
Growler. I am really excited, Vibes, because we have a very special interview that we are going to be sharing today.
Yeah.
We spent considerable amount of time traveling. We love to travel. Travel is our jam. It is our jam. It is our jam. And one of the things that we love to do when traveling is we love to find people who are having conversations that we are interested in, who are eating the foods that we want to eat, who are chefs, who are LGBT people, who are people of color, who are we look for podcasters. We look for all of those opportunities to connect with people. And today, we have the opportunity to share about an organization that's doing work in one of our favorite places in the whole wide world, and that
Jamaica.
place is Jamaica.
Oh, see, there you go.
I did not.
Jamaica.
I did not say Jamaica.
But no, tell people about JFlag.
So JFlag is a human rights and social justice organization. It is at the forefront of advocating for the lives of LGBT people in Jamaica. They've been doing that for some time now. And I'm telling you, I felt so excited during this interview, and our listeners will be able to hear that. But I think what I enjoyed the most was just hearing all of the great things that are happening in Jamaica. And then honestly, all I could think was, yes, can I? This is another reason why I want to just move. Put me in, coach.
Right. And it's good to know as people will hear that, like, yeah, people in people's mind, Jamaica is not necessarily deemed as one of the safest places in the world for LGBTQ people, but yeah, this interview and conversation with Nicoy Wilson, who is the policy and advocacy manager for the organization.
Yes.
The conversation with him and then my own experiences led me to know that that's not the case, and so I'm just glad that we're able to share this with listeners. And even though, like we said, it's the 11th hour of Pride Month, and July is right this week, Friday.
Yes,
it's still a good interview, and yeah, I'm glad we did it.
Unless you want to go to Pride in Jamaica, which is happening August 1st through the 6th.
Yep.
And hunty, let me tell you, if you have to go to a Pride brunch anywhere, please, please, please let me go to Pride brunch in Jamaica. Can you imagine
all the ackee and saltfish and oxtail and all the good drinks?
Yes.
And all the chocolate people.
Hey.
In the music.
Hey, the music.
I know it's a thing.
We've been talking about dancing. You ready to dance? Come on, let's dance.
Beach, sun, fun. Absolutely.
Yes. So without further ado,
let's go ahead and share the interview. We're going to take a break, and then when we come back, listen on.
Hello, our little puffins, and welcome back to another episode of Eat, Puff, Love. We are so excited to have a special guest with us all the way from Jamaica. We have Nicoy Wilson with us. Nicoy, how are you today?
Hi, I am good. How are you?
We're doing just great.
Yeah, thank you for joining us. So Nicoy is the Policy and Advocacy Manager for Equality for All Jamaica, is also well known as JFlag for those who are listening. So Nicoy, we're glad you're here. So we're wondering if you could just tell us a little bit about yourself and what Equality for All Foundation, also known as JFlag, does.
Okay, so as you said, I'm Nicoy Wilson, the Policy and Advocacy Manager at Equality. Equality for All Foundation, also known as JFlag, is the foremost social justice and human rights organization advocating for the rights of LGBT people in Jamaica. How I fit into this? Well, I engage stakeholders in a more direct way. So the parliamentarians, the heads of agencies, the heads of departments, and these are government departments, that is, and even individuals in the private sector. It's my job to engage them so that they are aware of the issues facing LGBT people in their various sectors, and to inform them of the need for, active steps to be taken so that the lives of LGBT Jamaicans can be improved.
Wow. Wow. So this is some beautiful work that you're doing in Jamaica. Is this organization in Kingston?
Yeah, it is. We are based in Kingston. Yes.
Okay. Cool. So how did this organization come about? Can you tell us a little bit about the history?
All right. So JFlag was founded on December 10, 1998. For those of us who know who work in human rights, we know that that's actually International Human Rights Day, December 10, and that's observed yearly. So it was founded by a set of queer people, by 12 men and women who, saw that there was a need to advocate for the protection of LGBT people's rights in Jamaica. So that's really how we came about. It's a group of people realizing that, hey, the LGBT community was underrepresented and needed that sort of representation and advocacy so that their needs, could be, needs and rights could be realized.
That is so cool. Yeah.
So we're really excited about all the wonderful projects that Equality Jamaica, JFlag, is doing within the country, working hard to improve the lives of everyday queer Jamaicans. And we know you host an annual Pride event. You're a part of the Stop the Murder music campaign, and there's various policies and legislation that you're trying to put forth in your assembly. So, could you elaborate on those things, or just give us an update on how things are going?
Sure. All right. So currently we are undertaking a few projects. One of them is EU funded, and it is focusing on economic, social, and cultural rights. And these are rights that look at your basic human needs. So the right to education, health, adequate standard of living, housing, these are some of the rights covered under that project. And in fact, we started work on ESPRs quite early. It's our gay agenda that was released some years ago. And that looked at the intersectionality of issues that LGBT people face. So the EU project basically, gives us the funding and the focus to look at the ESCR issues in a more deliberate way, and to actually undertake programs that help to address these rights. So we have service providers training happening right now under that project, where we get service providers in the room and we train them on LGBT issues. So we sensitize them on the issues the community is facing, and then we equip them with the skills on how to deal with the community members, or when they encounter community members, because we recognize that that's one of the gaps that exists. So that's one of the projects that we're doing, and that's a small part of it. A part of it also is the engagement of the key decision makers, which is something that I'm directly in charge of. So it is sensitizing them on the issues as well, and on the need for policy reform, especially because of the position that they hold. So, the parliamentarians, the business leaders, they have a lot of influence, and they are the ones who influence policy. And so, I engage them on the issues affecting LGBT people so that they can be aware of it and be in a position to take action on these issues. We also have another project that is funded by USAID, which is also looking at, it's focused on political and trade union engagement. And so we are doing trainings with political actors and labor unionists so that they are also aware of the issues affecting LGBT Jamaicans, but also equipping them with the skills so that they can engage LGBT people in a more meaningful way. And on the flip side, we also have training for LGBT people who are interested in politics, who are also being trained to engage these parliamentarians and the trade unionists in a more meaningful way. And when I say in a more meaningful way, I mean they being aware of how government works, and the various avenues for engagement, and how to go about accessing those avenues.
So making sure that there are people who are the seats at the table, as they say, that
right.
Table making influence.
Yeah, because one of the important things for us is having individuals in the spaces that are occupied by the decision makers who can push the LGBT issues directly to them. Because you'll speak to a member of parliament, for example. But that member of parliament has a constituency and has constituents that they also have to think about, and who they also have to, take into consideration when they're making certain decisions. And so they may not you may have a meeting with them and they understand the need for policy reform. They understand the need for LGBT people to be included in the decision-making process. However, because of the multiplicity of issues that they have to deal with, the issues of LGBT people, while they are similar to those of their constituents, it's not something that readily comes to mind. So you need the people in their space who have their ears, who can say to them that, hey, remember, LGBT people are also affected in this way, and so that they can actually take steps to address those issues, in their own way, in their constituency, and then, in a larger way on the national stage.
So I think you're speaking to our next question is, what are some challenges that Equality Jamaica is still facing? The world was just ravaged with the pandemic. We're still experiencing it, the economy. around the world. The world economy is in a uproar. How are these challenges, if all, affecting the work that you're doing and that your organization is doing on a daily basis?
All right. So initially, the pandemic was something that we had to adjust to very quickly, and it did affect our programs because many of our programs are in fact face to face, and so we had to pivot and we had to then move a lot of these things to the online space, and so that was one of the difficulties we faced. But it wasn't something that we weren't able to overcome, because we did overcome it. So in terms of how it has affected us, that's really how, it's really having to change how our programs are delivered, particularly those that were face to face. So even like for Pride last year, we had gathering restrictions, and so only a handful of individuals could actually attend Pride events. I believe, in the first year of Pride as well, it was even smaller than last year. So last year was bigger, but the year before it was even smaller. The events were dramatically scaled down. So that's really how it affected us. It was really how we had to deliver the programs, but we were still able to deliver programs nonetheless.
Wow. I hear you talking about all the trainings that you've been doing with organizations, people in the community. What are some things that your average Jamaican could do to help support the organization? If you are a business owner and these are issues that you are passionate about, or you're just somebody's grandmother who wants to figure out how you can be supportive, what are some ways in which Jamaicans can help support the organization?
Well, I guess one way, everyone is on social media. One way that people can support, which they oftentimes overlook, is through resharing our posts. It's through engaging with us online. Sharing our posts, especially those that have information on, the issues affecting the community, on gender identity, on sexuality, so that people in their respective circles can gain a better understanding of what being LGBT is, especially in Jamaica. They can also reach out to us. My email is nicoy@equalityjamaica.org. They can reach out to me to volunteer, because we do have a volunteer program. We also have an ambassador program. While the ambassador program is technically closed right now in terms of persons who can be a part of it, but every year we have trainings for new ambassadors, so that's something that they can also do. And you don't have to be LGBT. And in fact, we encourage allies to be a part of the ambassador program, because allyship is very important to us. So even like when you mentioned businesses, so a business owner does not have to be LGBT to support the LGBT cause. It can be through, for example, we have an employer safe space manual, which they can get access to learn, how to make their workplace more respectful of LGBT people. So these are the real ways in which that, they can actually help to support our cause. So we don't expect them to be going on any platform and saying, LGBT issues are important, etc. Sure, we'd want them to do that, but outside of that, in their own circle, they can promote LGBT rights, by doing the things that help us as LGBT people to be included, and to feel a part of, whatever is happening.
Right, because as you said, it takes a whole community, and allyship is important to building any type of movement and recognizing that these are people within your community. We are people in your community, and these are and the value that we add. So I guess my question is about what those of us who live outside of Jamaica, those queer people around the world, how should we support? What is the work that we should be doing here in our own home country, so that we are connecting ourselves throughout the world, particularly for us, a place that we love and enjoy coming to, Jamaica?
I think one way in which people overseas can help is really through connecting with us, talking to us, so that we can help them to kind of understand what it is like being LGBT here. I know right now, in terms of even perception of LGBT Jamaicans who would have left here long ago, is that Jamaica is still a very homophobic place. And I think people who are people in the diaspora, people who just love Jamaica, who visit, can be individuals who can spread the word that Jamaica is not, as it was dubbed before, the most homophobic place on earth, which I still disagree with to a great extent, even when the article came out, just because there are countries where LGBT people are being hunted and being published in the paper. And people are getting awards for that. That's not something that ever happened in Jamaica. But it's really spreading that message that Jamaica is not the place that people think it is. And that LGBT people are living here and are existing here openly. Because I'm existing here openly. And yes, I acknowledge that there's some privilege attached to it. It's having a good job, it's being able to live in particular places. But I don't see how that's different than anywhere else in the world, really. Because, you go anywhere else in the world and you know that you still will experience homophobia, even if it's subtle. Sometimes you don't realize you're experiencing it. But it's really for them to kind of spread that word that Jamaica is not that place, because I think it's kind of it's kind of having people come here, having Jamaicans more exposed to LGBT people, and I suppose even supporting our programs in whatever way they can. Sure, we'd want money, but there are other ways that they can support. It could be that during the vacation they decide, okay, we're going to take vacation during Pride, and during our Pride, because our Pride we do celebrate our Pride from August 1 to 6. It could be coming up and showing up at our events. It could be any small gesture that will just help to help us to feel the support from other people. I think those are things that can be done to support the community here.
Yeah, absolutely. When I saw that there was a Pride event in Jamaica, I was like, am I invited?
Yes, you are. And it's interesting because it's interesting how Pride happens here, because I remember my first Pride was in 2018 or 19, and we had gone to a place in Ocho Rios, which is a very public place. And when I got there, police was there. Police was searching us and whatever, but they were there primarily for security. And I was very amazed at how many LGBT people were in the space, because there were there were at least 300 people there, but it was a lot of people, and this was like a fairly public space. So a lot of people don't realize that this is something that happens in Jamaica. And then there are gay parties happening in Jamaica every week. So it's not, and it's not, and they're happening in very central locations. So we're not necessarily having people hunting us down in that way. And it's not that people aren't being hunted down. It's just that in terms of how things have changed, the fear that LGBT people had in the past, to a great extent, they don't need to have it anymore. And again, I have to always add that there is some type of privilege attached to it. It's being able to access certain spaces. It's being able to live in Kingston, which many people still, it's difficult for many people to do still, because it's not cheap to live here. But it still goes to the point that things are improving, have improved, and continue to improve for LGBT Jamaicans.
Yeah, I agree. It's not lost on us that even here, I mean, in what's supposed to be I'm putting this in quotes, speaking of light, that's not my philosophy around the United States, but that there's still a lot of openly discriminatory, homophobic, queerphobic, transphobic activity that happens throughout this nation. Yeah. I mean, just most recently, there was a whole plan to storm a Pride event in Iowa, out in the middle of the country, which is very rural. And, a drag performer was reading a book to children in the library. It's something been happening. Rise of conservatism. People feel more emboldened. So it's not lost on us that even here in our own home country, there's a privilege when you, as you said, when you have a certain standard of living, salary, education, etc., location, privilege that provides, and that's not for everybody. But I think that what you're doing and your organization is doing is trying to bring that to the forefront and make it so that more people and all people have the ability to be who they are.
That's just, yes, that's exactly it.
Those are the last of our questions. I just have one last question for you. Tell me about what excitement is planned for Pride this year?
All right, so there are two things that we should be having. So there is our Sports Day, which is on August 1, and then we have our Pride Breakfast Party, which is on August 6. We should be publishing a calendar soon, but we are confirming other events, because what we are trying to do at JFlag as well is to have less of pride on us. And why we're doing that is because we want the community to be more involved in the planning and executing of Pride events. So we have something called Pride Share, which we, and through that, we provide some level of funding to individuals who want to put on events for Pride. So there are going to be other events, but we have not completed the Pride Share process as yet. But as soon as those other events are confirmed and and if they are public, then you will see it on our calendar. But there should be a number of events happening.
If you can share with our listeners, our little puffins, and let them know how they can follow Equality for All Jamaica, how they can get in contact with you. Go ahead and drop us with your social media and contact information. Okay.
All right. So you can contact me at nicoy@equalityjamaica.org, or you can follow me on Instagram at nicoydw. But for our social media pages, you can follow us at EqualityJA on Instagram. It's also EqualityJA on Twitter. And then on Facebook, you can either type JFlag into the search box, or you can do facebook.com/EqualityJA. And if you want to reach out to us generally, you can send us an email at admin@equalityjamaica.org. So there's several ways that you can get in contact with us.
Awesome. Nicoy Wilson of Equality Jamaica, we are so grateful to have had you on our show today. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
No problem. It was my pleasure.
Awesome. We're going to end the recording.
Join us by subscribing to wherever you listen to your favorite podcast, and remember to eat, puff, love.